Instead of drinking eggnog with DJ Zog, you're here with me.
Yeah.
And now you're here with Adam Beasley, who joins us on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop hundreds of Toyotas indoors at one of America's largest showrooms at Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. Adam, thanks for joining, as you usually do when Hawk and Crowder are out. Thank you for keeping the bit going.
Yeah. Real quick, Josh, how do you have a half day when you work 4 hours a day?
Hey, take that out with Hawk and Crowder. I agree with you.
And
isn't it by its very nature a half day when your shift is 4 hours? So it's a quarter day. So they're working a quarter day today.
And let's be real, Bees. We do pretty much half a show every single day anyway. So we mail it in this final hour. This is probably the first time. I'm not even kidding. This is probably the first time in, I don't know, man, over a year that we do a live interview in the 5 o'clock hour. Probably like 3 years that we do a live interview in the 5 o'clock hour.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you replay things in the 5 o'clock hour?
Listen, I'm just saying we haven't done a live interview in the 5 o'clock hour in a very long time.
Well, Adam,
you can thank Mike McDaniel for that, because he pushed back his availability to 3, and so I had to push back my availability to you to 5:20.
Well, thank you for making the time, and let's start with what McDaniel said today, and then we'll dive a little more into last night's game. What were your takeaways from his press conference today? Did he seem to be in a good place? Did he seem to be the normal Mike McDaniel that you normally see at these press conferences?
Well, he certainly seemed tired. I don't think he slept last night. I wouldn't imagine if he did, it was very much. He was very clear-eyed about how damaging, embarrassing, bad, any other adjective you want to use to explain that loss, that it was. There's no wishful thinking. You blow a 14-point lead at home in the last 3 minutes to one of the 6, 7, maybe 8 worst teams in the National Football League with the 1 seed firmly in your grasp. That's bad. And compounding the bad is maybe your third most important offensive player. And Connor Williams is done for the year with a torn ACL. Not often that you speak so highly of a center, but you've seen their splits with him on the field and with him off the field. There is a significant drop-off from him to Liam Eichenberg at the center position. So it was not a fun day out at Miami Dolphins HQ.
Bees, just getting into last night, what was it more of an anomaly? Everything kind of just went wrong at the very wrong time for the Dolphins? Or was it indicative of same old Dolphins? Here we go. In December, they're going to show us our true colors. Because I really felt, my entire life, it's been same old Dolphins. If they gave us any hope in December, we knew what was going to end up happening, right? But I really thought this team would be different. I still do, by the way. I thought this team would be different. But I don't know. Like, am I buying into fool's gold again?
I don't think it's fool's gold. I mean, you don't get the 9-3 by luck. And they did deliver a win last year with their season on the line to get to the playoffs with their quarterback concussed. So, I mean, I think you can separate the years of crap that existed under Sperano, under Philbin, under Gase, and to extend under Flores. Although Flores played great down the stretch. They were just so far dead, gone, buried in September and October that those December wins were kind of meaningless because it wasn't enough to get them back to the playoffs. Look, I think what last night was more of a reflection of what this team is, right? I don't think the scripts they had last night had anything to do, with the 2017 Miami Dolphins, for example. I think what it had to do with is a team that makes boneheaded mistakes, and they've gotten away with it by and large because their offense is so good, and then recently their defense is so good. They've made the plays when they've needed to. And last night was following that script, right? I mean, they played a pretty bad game up until, 7-8 minutes left in regulation, whatever it was, when they had that just absolute gift handed him from the Titans, that muff punt. Quickly turned that into a Raheem Mostert touchdown. A play later, Will Levis tosses the ball to nobody. They recover it, and they score again on a Mostert touchdown. And we thought, so it is the same old 2023 Dolphins that they're able to make they have enough playmakers to make plays at key times to paper over their mistakes. And then the defense just completely collapsed. I mean, completely, in a way in which I have not seen before. And I've been covering this team since 2008. Certainly, you guys, I'm sure, have seen the stat. What is it? The first loss in 768 NFL games in which a team has led by 14 points in the last 3 minutes. I think I saw a stat. It goes back much, much, much farther. A team losing in regulation. Like usually you're down 14, you blow it. The team kicks 2 extra points. You get overtime, and if you're going to lose, you're going to lose then. Credit Mike Rabel for thinking, with a 21st century mindset and going for 2 when they closed it to what was it 8, and then they made it 6. Yep. It created a scenario in which we saw happen last night that it gave them a chance to beat the Dolphins in regulation. And it's wild. I mean, any time the Dolphins could have made a play to stop that. They could have, brought an extra blitzer and sacked Will Levis, put them in a long down and distance. They could have gotten off the field when it was goal to go in both those situations. They could have made a stop on the 2-point conversion. Or, they could have picked up a first down when they had the ball up 6 with how much time was left on the clock, not very much. Systemic failure across the board. And getting a sack on 4th down, not even getting the ball off to try to save the game was just a snapshot of all that went wrong in that game for them.
I want to you brought up how they approached rushing Will Levis on those final 2 drives. Are you surprised that they didn't heat him up a little more? And do you think it's because they didn't have Deshaun Elliott and they didn't have Javon Holland, and so you don't want to put your secondary and your coverage in an even worse spot potentially than they were already in? Do you think that was part of the math that Vic Fangio was using in that spot?
I think it had a large part to do with it. I also think it happened so fast. Like that last drive, people crushed the Bills, 13 seconds or whatever, that the Chiefs went the length of the field, that AFC Championship game to extend the game, in which they won in overtime on the first possession with a touchdown. The drive the Dolphins gave up last night wasn't as high profile. I mean, they had the national audience still, but it wasn't, to go to the Super Bowl, but it was just as egregious. I mean, 64 yards in 4 plays. If you're going to blitz, you better do it in 1 of 4 plays, because if not, they're going to be in the end zone, I guess. Just staggering, man. I don't have an explanation for it. I do think that being down their top 2 safeties really hurt them. But nonetheless, guys, Jalen Ramsey was still out there. Yeah. Xavier Howard was still out there. Kader Kohou was still out there. All 3 of those guys were victimized in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game in a way in which you have, the expectation is they make those plays. That's why the Dolphins have, it's got to be the most expensive cornerback tandem in the National Football League to make plays like that in those moments. So yeah, the safeties were bad. I mean, really bad. And I know earlier in this program, Javon Holland was talking about maybe playing this weekend. That would be a godsend for this team, because the safeties they had last night with the game on the line were not nearly good enough.
Adam Beasley, Pro Football Network, covers the NFL, covers the Dolphins. Adam, I was saying this earlier. After the 3 other losses this year, maybe aside from Buffalo, I can point to 1 or 2 things that happened in the game and said, you know what? Like this, at least this was good. At least this part of the game went well for the Dolphins. Yesterday, across the board in all 3 phases, they had multiple miscues throughout the course of that game. And it's hard to pinpoint one thing from yesterday because it was so much that went wrong for them. And again, I said this too, they got the result, honestly, that they deserved, even though they had it right there for them to steal one they probably should have lost anyways. That's as bad of a performance as I've seen from a good Dolphins team. Probably, well, there've only been so many good Dolphins teams, but you get what I'm getting at here. Like, that was across the board a failure from the staff to the guys in the field in all 3 phases.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, that game was weird from Jump Street, right? Like, there were 3 seemingly significant injuries, impactful injuries in the first 5 minutes of the game. And it was Tyreek got hurt, Connor Williams got hurt. Oh, no, it was Jalen Waddle. Like, Tyreek was later in the half. It was Jalen Waddle got banged up. Xavier Howard got banged up. Yep, and yeah, so they had a number of injuries that just got it off to a weird start. and then you just never really got your footing. I felt like they were off schedule, off balance the entire game. Having your quarterback get in ear hold 40% of the snaps doesn't help, right? I mean, when your offensive line, and again, it's crazy how, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Here we are again in December talking about the offensive line for the Miami Dolphins maybe holding this team back. That's by far the worst performance they had of the season. Now, I guess if you want to look for silver linings, guys, there were two of them that you could take away, and they both had to do with the run game. They ran the football very well, and they stopped the run very well. That'll only get you so far. They also forced a significant number of turnovers, right? They had a pick six. They had 2 fumble recoveries, although both of those fumbles were kind of self-inflicted wounds by the Titans more than there were any great plays that the Dolphins made. But if you're the Miami Dolphins and you force 3 turnovers against the Titans and you rush for 5.5 yards a carry or whatever it was, I don't have the stat sheet in front of me. You're thinking you're going to win that game, right? I mean, you're thinking there's no way we're going to lose that game to a 4-8 team with a rookie quarterback who was, by the way, Will Levis has bookended his young career so far with spectacular showings, and in the middle was kind of garbage. Whatever it was, the 3 or 4 starts he had in between his debut and last night, he was, I think, a 72 passer rating quarterback. He was bad, right? You think you have all of those things lined up playing at home where the Dolphins had won 17 of 19. This is a win. It just speaks to how weird of a game last night. The question I have, and I don't know the answer to, is this a sign of things to come, or is this just kind of like a black swan event? If not for the Connor Williams injury, I would say, just flush this and get ready for the stretch run. I don't know how they fix that offensive line with the current personnel. And guys, there's no guarantee that either Robert Hunt or Teron Armstead are back for the Jets game. The Jets, for all their faults, can still play defense pretty good. And I think Hunt is almost certainly out with what seems to be a pretty significant hamstring injury. And we'll see Armstead. My guess is they would like to prefer not to rush him back. But all of a sudden, guys, this is a must-win game for the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. It really is.
You brought up how well they were running the football last night, and I think that's the most frustrating thing on McDaniel's part that I saw yesterday. You saw what happened when they decided to run the ball in the red zone in the fourth quarter. They scored 2 touchdowns. McDaniel said after the game, the reason they lost is because they went 2 for 5 in the red zone. Well, in the first half, it was almost like he refused to run the ball inside the 10-yard line. They were throwing goal line fades to an injured Tyreek and a Cedric Wilson on third down. It was head scratching, and it's emblematic of a bigger issue, I think, with McDaniel in these short yardage scenarios, because there were some short yardage plays in the game where he handed the ball off and they were able to convert. It's like let me preface this. I think McDaniel is the best Dolphins coach in Don Shula. I don't think that's too much of a hot take.
Yeah.
Maybe Jimmy Johnson's in there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Mike McDaniel's the best coach the Dolphins have had since Don Shula. But there are little things that happen and have happened over his first season and a half here that it feels like he should be better than to make those mistakes. The short yardage stuff is inexplicable. It was a problem last year. It's a problem this year. And then he does the obvious thing finally last night, and it works, and it makes you scratch your head even more. What do you attribute this to? Is it him out trying to outsmart himself, outthink himself?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we don't know what play they were going to run on that botch snap. So It's entirely possible that was a running play. But regardless, your broader point stands. They throw the ball way too much in short yardage. And here's this to me, I think, is beyond the offensive line issues, which are a different conversation. Just their passing game, it's 2 dudes, right? And their running game is 2 dudes. Their passing game is Tyreek and Waddle, and it's 70-30 Tyreek, 30 Waddle. And the running game is Mostert and Achane. That is the totality of their offense. And those are 4 really good players. Let's not get it wrong. I mean, those are 4 of the best skill position players the Dolphins had in a very long time.
And they're top 5 in
it is the best group
category.
Yeah. Those guys are very, very good. But what would this offense look like with a real tight end? And all apologies to Durham Smythe, what he does well, but he has, I think, 20 catches in 13 games. Like, what would this offense look like? And I know they don't grow on trees, but with a Kelsey type, a guy that can get you the easy throw across the middle. How many easy throws across the middle do they have when things break down? And that's really what the strength of Kelsey is. He just kind of, he takes up space, and when Mahomes can't find anything on the outside, there's this huge security blanket for them. Not having that threat at all really helps defenses a lot. It makes them a lot better. It makes it also a lot more predictable. It makes defenses a lot better at stopping what they do. So if they had that tight end, certainly it would help in the red zone, no doubt about it. That's the biggest target in the red zone. But to your broader point, I agree. The easiest way to score inside the 20s, particularly inside the 5, is it wasn't just Josh. They were in the red zone 5 times. They were inside the 5 times, and they got 20 points from it. You're going to lose most games when you do that. I think if they run the ball and had a tight end that can catch the ball in the red zone, this offense would look a lot different.
Bees, we don't have a lot of time here, but really quickly, is Tua out of the MVP race after last night's performance?
Yeah, I think he was on the fringe before last night, and last night was it, because no matter what stats he puts up the rest of the year, unless Tyreek doesn't play another game and Tua absolutely shreds the last 4 opponents, they're going to say any success he's had is because of Tyreek. Even if that argument, which I think it's fallacy. I think they both make each other better. But even if that argument, didn't exist, his stats are still kind of borderline, and they haven't won a key game, right? Like what signature win do they have so far? Their signature win's a 50-point blowout of the Denver Broncos, right? And that's a great win. It's one of the best wins in the NFL this year. But it happened so early in the season, and that was not sustainable, but his production has dipped in the second half of the year. He's going to make the Pro Bowl, is my guess, but if you have a Tua Tagovailoa MVP ticket, you can probably throw it in the trash.
Beasley, thanks so much, as always, for taking the time. Always a pleasure to talk to you on this very program. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, and one of these days I'll actually talk to the hosts of the show, and that will make me happy as well.
Probably not.
Probably not, right?
Thank you, Bees.
Later, guys.